Welcome back to Retrieving Sanity, a podcast where we dive into the depths of mental health one laugh at a time. I'm your host, Keegan, and I'm here to talk about everything from anxiety and depression to self-care and finding joy in the everyday. Because, let's face it, life can suck, but we don't have to navigate it alone. Retrieving Sanity is a partner with Podcast for Prevention, an initiative from Start Day 1 that aims to prevent suicide and promote mental health awareness. Together, we're working to break the stigma and create a more supportive community. So grab a cup of coffee, sit back, relax, and let's retrieve our sanity together. And today we have a very special guest, and his name is Ondra Niemczyk. I think I said that kind of right?
The first time was better.
First time, I knew the first time was going to be a little close. The second time, I told you it wasn't going to be a good recreation.
Don't worry about it.
Could you correct me, please?
Yeah, it's Ondra Niemczyk.
Niemczyk. Okay.
Yes.
Niemczyk. Gotcha. Okay, so it's that last syllable that caught me off guard.
Yeah.
All right. So, Ondra, where are you from? You sound like a very interesting person. You are the robo-humanist, as it says underneath your name.
Mm-hmm.
But tell us about yourself. Like, where are you from? What do you do for work? And if you consider it work, even, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I'm really looking forward to the conversation. You know, I love these. So yeah, thanks for inviting me on. I'm originally from the Czech Republic, so that's why the name is a little bit. Yeah, I've very early on in my career when I was thinking, you know what, I think I'm going to start like doing things internationally. I knew that like my name is gonna be a problem, so I was like, yeah, I don't worry about it, you know, and I don't let anybody else worry about it. Some people are like very stingy about their names, but I'm like, I really don't mind. But anyways, so professionally, I'm a mindset coach, international speaker, best-selling author. I've been a digital nomad for 2.5 years. I lead a community as well, and I'm a content creator. I make a lot of videos and I write a lot of content. And the reason why I do this is because, and we'll get into the deeper topics as well, but I overcame my own depression and social anxiety without therapy and medication. And I've been to about 22 countries now, close to 25 countries, and yeah, so it's been a wild journey. As you can tell, I'm also very young. I'm 24 now, so I've done a lot of the groundwork on mental health and all of this very early, and yeah, so now I do consider it work, but it is like a work that I'm really passionate about. And sometimes it feels like work and sometimes it doesn't feel like work, you know? And yeah, so to answer that question, yeah, sometimes it's work, sometimes it's not. But it's not all like, oh, amazing, like I don't have to work because I'm doing this thing that I'm passionate about. Like, you know, it's still like, yeah, okay, I have to do this and that, and it's for work.
Yeah. Well, man, I've got to say, sorry about that. You've got a very interesting life, and it sounds like you've done a whole lot in 24 years. And I've got to say, like, not only am I impressed, I'm a little jealous. Because I know whenever I was your age, I was actually starting to fight alcoholism, and it sucked. It totally ruined my life, but it happened because of different mental health issues. It happened because I was ignoring a lot of things. I really just didn't know who I was in a lot of the sense. And so it sounds to me that you kind of didn't maybe know at first, but now you know who you are. And you really stepped into it, and now you're trying to help all these people find themselves too. Is that kind of right?
Yeah. So I think the biggest difference, or maybe the only difference, is just the timeline, right? And for me, it just happened way earlier than let's say for most people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And thanks for the honesty about, being a little bit jealous. I think it's better to be honest about it this way than people who start just, oh, you're so lucky, right? And come on, just be curious,
Mm-hmm.
find out what's actually happened. And
Mm-hmm.
then you might be, maybe you're not gonna think I'm so lucky anymore. Although obviously there's been a lot of lucky moments. But
Mm-hmm.
for me, it all started when I was around 13 years old, right? So like about a decade ago. And to paint a picture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Basically, as a kid, or like in your early teens, you have two worlds, mostly, right? You have your home and you have your school. Well,
Yeah.
I was being bullied in school, right? So that
Mm-hmm.
pretty much sucked. And my
Mm-hmm.
parents were very toxic people towards each other and towards us as well. So it was like basically screaming every day and like very strict and almost nothing allowed, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so both of my worlds as a young teen pretty much sucked, right? And
Yeah.
there's I have to say this because there's a lot of happy moments from my childhood and a lot of great stuff that went adventures that we went on and a lot of bikes and we used to play like these real world games and things like that, especially with my mom. She forced us to go outside. But so there's a lot of happy moments, but mostly it sucked. And
Yeah.
so that started just creating a lot of depression and a lot of, specifically for me, it manifested in social anxiety, right? So I was terrified of people, I hated people, I felt people are only evil, everybody's out to get you, you always have to look over your shoulder, and I would literally always look over my shoulder when I was in public. And even when I would walk anywhere, right? I would
Mm-hmm.
every 2 minutes I would be like walking, looking around. I remember I would even just out of nowhere just start freaking out when I'm walking, say, home from school, right? And I would
Mm-hmm.
like just freak out, to look around everywhere, hyper vigilant, and then go as fast as I could towards the nearest corner of a street, and just turn the corner and just start running. And there was nobody there. Like there's nothing. Or if I saw somebody behind me, like like say 50 meters behind me, then that was obvious. But even if it was nobody there, I would just freak out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was always on edge, and that starts to wear you down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Two things happened when I was 13 that started to change all of this. And it was getting so bad that I was very highly considering suicide, right? Because it does wear you down. So I was very seriously considering it. And then two things basically changed and saved my life. One is I found videos of random acts of people doing random acts of kindness. And it might sound kind of silly because it's videos on YouTube, but it literally saved my life because it showed me that there are good people out there in the world, and then maybe I just need to find them, right? So exactly like you said, like I was kind of lost, I didn't know what to do, I just knew I was suffering, and I didn't know what to do, and I didn't want to suffer anymore. And I didn't know what to do. I had no direction. But now, because I found these videos, well, it gave me two things, really, right? It gave me hope that, okay, there is something different, that is something better. And it gave me a direction as well, because I said, I need to go out and find these people. Like, I need to find these people, I need to become one of them so that they want to hang out with me, right? So I don't want to hang out with these people anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I want to hang out with the people over there. And so it gave me hope and direction. And the second thing that happened is, once again on my phone, I Googled how to be happy, right? And I just started, and that's how I got introduced into the world of self improvement and personal development. And that's why I started getting the tools, right? So now I went from completely lost, didn't know what to do, completely depressed and anxious, and didn't want to be here anymore, to, okay, I have some hope, I have direction in life, and now I'm learning the tools that can help me get there, right? And I'm learning what to do. And so it completely transformed my life. And I became really obsessed with changing my habits, and I became obsessed with like having a morning routine, right? I started waking up at 5:30 in the morning before school to go for a run, to build my like confidence and I started speaking to strangers online first, or like with anonymous apps, and then later on started using like my name, and I started using voice messages, and I started like sending video messages, right? And to build my social skills, right? So I just totally became obsessed with self-improvement, and yeah, now fast forward a decade, and my life is like ridiculously different. Like I wouldn't have even imagined how different it would be. And I had somebody on my podcast recently, and we were talking about his kind of mental health struggles, right? And he said, now when I look back, it almost feels like thinking about and remembering somebody else's life, right?
Mm.
It's really that different. It's so much better and so different that it can almost feel like it's somebody else's life. But yeah, like when I was going through it, it sucked, and it feels like you're never gonna get out, right? And yeah, so I like to give the hope that you can get to a point, right? No matter how much you're struggling now, you can get to a point where it feels like you live in a totally different life.
Man, yeah, I can totally relate to that, and it sounds like you've been through a lot, uh, and especially going from that social anxiety that is crippling and going to full up digital nomad, like, and
Yeah,
you've been doing it for 2.5 years, like,
yeah,
holy cow.
yeah,
uh and it's just such a stark contrast that a lot of people would sit there and obviously be like, there's no way that you suffered from this if you're out there doing this. And it takes all these balls and all this courage to go do nomading and to be a content creator, to put yourself out there. It takes a lot of utzpah, it takes a lot of guts. And so, of course, a lot of people are going to sit there and be like, nah, they're going to point fingers, but you've built up this tough skin, and you continue to go and push to help other people get there. That's just awesome. So, whenever you Googled how to be happy, like, did you legit expect Google to just be like, here's some steps?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it was more so of just and that's a great question. I think it was just more so like a desperate act because I didn't really know what
Mm-hmm.
else to do anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I was kind of surprised that there's like so many answers, like
Mm-hmm.
so many answers, right? And the first one I remember was a website called WikiHow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've heard of the website, right? There's steps how to do basically anything, right? But
Mm-hmm.
even how to be happy, how to become happy, right? And I don't really remember most of the steps. I think it mentioned gratitude, and I think it mentioned, I know for sure, I know that it mentioned confidence. Like one of the steps to being happy was be confident, right? And I'm like, well, I'm not confident. Okay, back
Mm-hmm.
to Google, how to be confident, right? And
Yeah.
I think it was also Vicky How that like laid out some basic steps of how to be confident, and
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of where I started, and then I went on to watching like self-improvement videos, and I think I definitely came across the book called How to Win Friends and Influence People when it comes to social skills and
Mm-hmm.
communication skills, like the basics.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I didn't really expect to find much because I had no idea that this world existed because
Mm-hmm.
nobody's ever told me before. I don't think anybody also knew. Like my parents definitely didn't know. My classmates didn't know. Nobody in my small little town probably didn't really know,
Mm-hmm.
or definitely not in my circle. So I really just discovered it, and I was yeah. That's why I became obsessed because I was like I didn't really expect to find anything, but damn, there's a lot of good stuff here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a lot of good stuff out there nowadays.
Yeah,
And it sounds like you're compiling all of this and just trying to give the best of what you got to everyone. And I mean, who else better to do it than someone that's tried it, used it, and tested it, and put it through the ringer. And it sounds also like it's going right back to what that first thing that kind of changed, seeing those random acts of kindness. You're being that change you want to be in the world. So, with podcasts and everything like that, you never necessarily know who's going to be listening. And so you never know who's going to be like, yeah, I got something out of that.
Yeah.
But with that small town feel, I totally relate to that. I don't know how small you're talking, but I'm from a town or small city of, I think it's at 200,000 for a population now. So that may be big, it may not be.
A little bit bigger, yeah. My town is about 20,000.
Okay, so yeah, big difference. I did grow up on the outskirts of town, so my graduating class was actually like 40, and I went to school with, I think, 12 of them since kindergarten or elementary, since we
Mm.
just had this weird system. So I totally get that small town feel that makes you feel trapped, and no
Hmm.
one else really feels like they want to get out to. Sometimes, sometimes in my experience, from like, thankfully I'm outside my hometown at the moment, but like I don't have anything to knock on wood. Hang on, there we go. Um, a lot of people wind up back in my hometown. It's like a black hole. So I don't know if yours is kind of like that too. Like people will leave and then they come back and then they leave and then they come back. But
Yeah.
it takes confidence. It takes a lot of effort to get out of that. And then not only that, you're doing nomading. So what made you want to go do nomading and a digital
Yeah.
nomad at that?
Yeah. Well, it was definitely like a step-by-step process, right? Like it
Mm,
didn't just happen like now I have social anxiety and whoops, and I'm traveling the world, right? Like we're 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 still talking about a decade here, right? Like
mm,
a decade of progress. Like the first half, really, mm,
mm,
about 6 to 7 years was I didn't even think about traveling the world. I didn't really want to go out anywhere or do anything like that, right? That became
mm,
like a byproduct of actually me overcoming my social anxiety, right? And,
mm,
and the reason I say that is because I was just focused on building confidence and becoming comfortable with talking to people. And the way I chose to do that was by talking to people online, right? To become
mm,
better at conversations. Because I was too scared and too anxious and too awkward to do it in person.
mm,
So I just went online, right? And because the online world is so huge, right? And I
mm.
started using English as well. I don't really remember why specifically anymore, but I just started using English, right? And it's not our first language. Most people
Mm.
in my town don't really speak English. But
Wow.
so I was speaking to people from Egypt, from Pakistan, from Brazil, from Mexico, from the US, and from France, from Finland, right? And so from Indonesia and the Philippines. And so I'm sitting in my small little town, right? And I'm
Mm,
chatting with all of these people from all across the globe. And I'm learning, as I'm like talking to them, I'm learning about their lives and their countries and their worlds, right? Like I'm like, oh,
mm,
that seems kind of like completely different, right? And so I became like a global minded, but not in a way of like people watch news these days, right? And they're like, oh,
mm,
there's this bad thing is happening over there in that country. Oh, the world is doomed, right? No, like I
mm,
was talking to the people who live their lives there, right?
mm.
And that's a big difference if you talk to the people or if you watch the news or if you
Oh
listen to
yeah.
videos about what's happening, right? Like it's a big difference, right?
Oh yeah.
And so I started being really curious about like what the world is like outside of my own country and outside of my own thing, right? So it
Mm,
became kind of byproduct of that. And then by the time I was around 19, that's when I started kind of discovering this world of people making money online and traveling the world and YouTubers and things like this and like travel influencers. And I'm like, whoa, that seems amazing. I want to do that, right?
Mhm.
And then it seemed kind of impossible, right? Even still back then, it was like, well, I don't that like this seems completely impossible that I could do that, right? Like, who am I to be able to do that as well? But
Mhm.
then my advantage back at this time already was that I've already done something that was impossible. Like speaking to a girl on a bus was seemed absolutely impossible.
Yeah.
But now I was doing it, right? Like now it was a normal routine. When I was on the bus and there was a cute girl, I would just go talk to her, right? Joining groups of strangers in a park, like when they're like sitting on the grass having a picnic, like walking up next to them and just sitting down, like, "Hi guys, can I join you?" Being able to do that, like that's completely wacko, impossible. No way I could do that. And now I was doing it, like and now it was a part of my life. So I'm like, you know what? Like this online thing seems kind of impossible and seems kind of crazy, but I bet I could do it. I bet if I really focused on it, if I spend the energy and the time, I think I could do it. And so I
Mhm.
became again like very very interested in what is an online business, how does it work, how do people make money online, do I want to have a job that pays me remotely? That wasn't really that popular back then, right? There were a
Mhm.
few around, but this was before the pandemic, right? So it wasn't really that popular. It was really the online business way that was like the big one.
Mhm.
And so I was like, well, okay, what is affiliate marketing? What is dropshipping? What is this? What is that? And I started learning and trying things and testing it out and invested some money and lost some money and worked a lot of hours. And yeah, so that was kind of the motivation behind it, was just like curiosity
Mhm.
and seeing what's out there and already knowing, talking to some of the people. One thing I will add that I kind of skipped over, that my, let's say, work travel experiences
Mhm.
actually started when I was 17. This was in the second year of my high school. It was in the second year of my high school. And
Mhm.
in Europe, we actually have, my school was chosen as one of the schools from like a European Union program
Mhm.
to have like a international international internship. There we go. Like an international internship,
Mhm.
right? So they took 12 kids from
Mhm.
our school and they said you can go to for 3 weeks, you can go to Hungary in Budapest,
Mhm.
which is like two countries over, and
Mhm.
you're gonna live there for 3 weeks and you're gonna get like a job, right, in your field. I was studying electronics and automation and
Mhm.
technology. And so that was a part of it. That was like my first. Already knew at that point that I maybe, because I've been talking to people, right? I've been talking to people from all over the world already, and I knew,
Mhm.
like I'm curious. And when I went there, I was like, wow, like living here is really cool, right?
Mhm.
Living here is really awesome, right? And it was only 3 weeks, but it was really great. And then the second time was one of my classmates, he his family had a family friend who lived in Germany and had his own company in Germany, and he was looking for like a summer work, like people who would help him over the
Mhm.
summer because he had a landscaping company, like cutting grass in front of buildings and things like that, right? So
Uh-huh.
so me and my classmate went over to Germany for a month, and we worked in Germany for him. And he was a guy from the Czech Republic, but he moved to Germany, built his company there. So
Mhm.
those were kind of like my two first experiences of going abroad and working and staying abroad and working abroad a little bit
Mhm.
longer, and I loved it. And so that kind of solidified it as well. And then the digital nomading came after with
Mm.
online businesses and things like that. Yeah.
Okay. Man, it's just one thing after another. For 24 years, you sure did pack up a whole lot.
Yeah. If I condense it, if I condense it really well, or if I
Mhm.
condense it, I say I overcame my social anxiety and depression without therapy and medication, and I've worked in 8 different fields in 4 different countries before I became fully self-employed and a digital nomad. And since then, I've been to 20 countries. So yeah, for a
Wow.
24-year-old, it's if you really pack it up, it sounds like a lot.
No, that is quite a like list of accomplishments, especially at 24. And again, just got to say, I'm jealous because you have that confidence in everything that I wish I had years ago. In fact, if people were to ask me, I would tell them, like, I still don't have that much confidence. Like, I just say, I'm going to do it and see where it kind of goes. And I don't know how you built up your confidence. You said that you Googled it, you said that you Googled how to be happy. And so I mean, Google just seems to be your best friend.
Yes, yes. Well, nowadays it's changing more towards AI and ChatGPT, right? But yeah,
Hmm.
Google is still. I think they use Gemini, Google's AI. Yeah. So it's becoming more of an AI than just Google these days. But yeah, Google was a big part of my life, and so and technology and social media as well.
Mm.
And that's where
Yeah.
the robo humanists come from. Because we'll get back on the later, but I'll also tell you like how to build the confidence or how I built my confidence and how
Okay.
I protect my confidence.
Yeah.
Before that, I was gonna say that right, like so while most people these days, right, the
Hmm.
general population, social media and technology is really not good for them. Just right, like doom scrolling, comparing yourself, it takes away your confidence, it takes away your social life, it creates really bad social habits for you. It it shows you like everybody else has a so much more of an amazing life than you, right? And you feel like a
Hmm.
loser, and it isolates you, right? So that's how most people experience social media and technology. For me, because I started using it early on with an intention of overcoming my issues, right? So it was
Hmm.
all different. I didn't kind of just drift into it. One of the things that my parents were very strict about was technology, right? And we had limited time on how much we could spend on the computer. Like we couldn't really have social media. I mean, of course we could hide it, right? But like it was very discouraged in my family, and you would get an ass whooping if you didn't obey the rules, right? So
Hmm.
while most people kind of just drift into it, I really started using it very intentionally for helping my life and improving my life, right?
Hmm.
And contributing for to my social and personal growth. Whereas
Hmm.
most people kind of just drift into it, right? And this is where like the robo-humanism kind of started coming from, because
Uh-huh.
I was able to figure out ways how I use social media and technology in healthier ways.
Hmm.
So in a way that it's helped me improve my life drastically, right? In the social aspect, in mental health aspects, in professional aspects, in traveling the world aspects, right? So all of it comes from social media, and all of it comes from technology and phones.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's why I want to push that out there as well and talk about it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. And that is one of the things, we are probably a generation apart, interestingly enough. And so it's interesting because I'm older than Google. So for me, I grew up outside a whole bunch and all these other things. And so you have these technologies at your fingertips that I grew up with, but at the same time, we can see the difference in how they're utilized. You utilized it with intention, and I love that. That is something that I haven't really heard about until kind of recently, and it was more or less like, hey, if you want to see more of this, go like and do some of this with the algorithm, and you'll see more of that stuff. But I haven't really heard of someone that got into social media for the pure aspect of let me improve my social skills. So how did that really play out? Of course, it was really beneficial, but like, how did you start? Because I'm sure someone out there is going to hear this and be like, I want an international pen pal, because those are a thing nowadays, especially with the internet. So you don't have to just stick to Facebook, right? There's other websites to socialize with people all over the world. So what are some of the tools that you used?
So now I basically just use Facebook mostly. But
Mm-hmm.
back then, it's funny that you mentioned that you don't have to just use Facebook. Back then, I didn't use Facebook at all. I think maybe for the first year, I think I started a Facebook page, like a profile, like a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the name of the app. Like I couldn't tell you. Maybe it still exists, maybe not. But
Mm-hmm.
it was this app on your phone, and it basically had just like one feature, and there was this like little paper airplane right in the middle of it, right? And you would click the paper airplane, and then the paper airplane would fly around the like tiny globe for like 5 seconds, and it
Uh-huh.
would directly match you with somebody else who also clicked the plane around the same time, and it would just put you into chat randomly, right? And that's what I started using, right? And I was just chatting with people there. And of course, most people kind of drift away. You have one conversation and you never speak to them again. But with some of them, we became somewhat friends, right? And we started
Uh-huh.
chatting more and more. And with one of them, I'm still friends. Like, so she's my oldest online friend. We've been in touch for 8 years or something like that. She's in Brazil,
Wow.
and we still talk every now and then. And I haven't been to Brazil yet, but when I go, we're probably gonna meet over there, right? So, or once she starts to venture outside, or if she will, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so for me, that was the very beginning. It was just an app that, like, there's no distraction with content or with different, and you don't have to be worried about, oh, am I bothering these people by sending them a message, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they've already said I want to chat. So that was the easy beginning, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
when I got more comfortable with that, when I got more familiar with that, I started doing other things and I started reaching out to people in Facebook groups and things like that, right? So Facebook groups are still, I think, one of the most amazing tools that we
Mm-hmm.
have that most people don't really utilize very well.
Okay.
But I've met, oh my gosh, hundreds of people in Facebook groups that most of them, of course, are only online. Some of them I've flown out to their countries to meet
Wow.
them and hang out with them because I met them on Facebook.
Really?
Yeah,
That is cool. Okay, so how are most people not utilizing Facebook groups properly? Like,
yeah. So there's two ways that you can use social media, not just
mm,
Facebook groups, but in general, right?
uh-huh.
Most people are in the first group, which is the passive way to use social media, right?
Mm-hmm.
Passive means only consuming content, maybe put a like, and that's it, right? But they don't really
Mm-hmm.
ask questions. They don't really create conversations. They don't really interact well. They don't really post anything of their own, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't post their own questions. They don't post their own posts or beliefs or whatever, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
the passive way. The second way is the active way. This is where you actually actively engage, right? So if you're scrolling, say, on Facebook or on Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
on every post that you see, you have to
Mm-hmm.
leave a meaningful comment or a
Mm-hmm.
question, like a follow-up question, right? Or you can send messages to people, right, directly, like, hey, I just saw this post from you and I commented on it. I think it's really amazing that you're doing this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And start a conversation there, right? Obviously, a part of it is also creating your own content and creating your own space to attract people towards you as well. You don't always have to push out and reach out, right? But if you put out your
Mm-hmm.
own content, some people might start reaching out to you as well, right? So it's really simple and it's not rocket science, right? But it's just being more so. If I put it in a one sentence, actually be social on social media. but most people are not social on social media, right? Like, and just like to go a little bit deeper, it means again starting conversations,
Mhm.
asking questions, having interactions, and not only for the purpose of being angry and spreading hate comments and stuff, but like no, like just set genuine intentions of like I want to have a conversation, I want to get to know somebody, and then I want to talk to them, right? And the progression goes usually something like this: comments, messages, voice messages, video call, video call, video call, video call, video call, in-person meeting, right? That's kind of how you want to do it in the beginning, especially when you're still kind of anxious and you don't really feel very familiar. At
Mhm.
this point, if you don't have like if you're not in specific communities, let's say,
Mhm.
now later on you start to blend into these like really amazing communities that are
Mhm.
already like vetted and mostly safe, right? I mean, you still have to be cautious because
Yeah.
sometimes people are weirdos, but you can just chat a little bit and meet somebody in person directly.
Mhm.
And some communities that I've discovered have Discord servers, right? And
Mhm.
Discord servers might have like a location-based channels. Um, some Facebook groups have WhatsApp groups associated to them based on chat like topics and location as well. And they host meetups and they host events and things like that, right?
Mhm.
And you can really start building your social life from what you find online and who you find online. And even if you take it really like from the high like from the biggest distance, right? You go online, you go on Facebook, you find a group and you see that they have an event, they have a meetup in your city at this time.
Mhm.
You don't even have to chat with anybody on Facebook. You just go and show up for the meetup, right? But you've still used Facebook to discover these people and to be social, right? But most people are
Mhm.
gonna be like, oh, okay, and keep scrolling, right? And keep scrolling, and that's it. So it's really simple. It's not rocket science, and just be more social on the social media.
Wow, that's actually really rather ingenious, you know? Because I think you're right. A lot of people really do just eventually drift into the more of a lurker aspect. I'm just going to observe and not do anything, and then get all woe is me whenever life seems to pass them by. And so, with the robo humanist, it sounds like you're trying to change the way people's mindset works around technology. Because, from my aspect, kind of like I was saying, I'm older than Google. I've seen technology just explode ever since I was itty bitty. But at the same time, it's been doing this for decades. But now we're at a point where it's going even faster and faster and faster. So we definitely need someone to kind of maybe guide other people, guide just people into how to better use what's around them for their benefit. Because a lot of people seem to just kind of go, well, it's there, it exists, I can enjoy it, but a lot of people don't go, well, how can it work for me too? You know, is that kind of the
Yeah,
gist of what you're going for?
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely on point. Yeah, totally on point. Totally on point. I like to say, learn to use social media for your social and personal growth rather than just letting it use you, right? Because that's
Mm-hmm.
really what most people are letting it do. Letting the platforms use them by spending so much time just consuming it and scrolling because now they see ads in between, right? And the platforms
Mm-hmm.
make money just by people spend. That's why it's free, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's free because it costs your time and attention, and they make money from your time and attention. And the crazy thing is that basically with social media platforms,
Mm-hmm.
we are the product. Like the platform itself isn't the product. We are the product, and Facebook is selling us and our attention as the product to advertisers, to companies, right? That's how they
Mm-hmm.
make money. That's why it's free for us, and that's why they are still a billion dollar trillion-dollar companies
Mm-hmm.
because they sell us, they sell our attention to other companies,
Mm-hmm.
right? So yeah, it's wild. There's a great documentary on this. I think it's done by the Center for Humane Technology called The Social Dilemma. Great documentary. If you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix. I think you can find it somewhere online as well. Um, Definitely check out The Social Dilemma as like the first step into
Mm-hmm.
if you want to start using social media more intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
It will warn you about all of the dangers that you're not aware of and all of the bad stuff that's happening in the background that you don't really know that's happening.
No.
However, where they came out really short, and it's a little bit older now, but where they came out a little bit short, in my opinion, is they don't really give many ways of what you can do. Like one of the guys just says, just delete social media and don't use it. I'm like, well, that's not really a great solution, in my opinion, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I went on a mission to start figuring out, okay, what are actually the healthier ways that we can do this? Because I feel like I've done it. And of course, sometimes I still get sucked into the content and sometimes I still waste too much time, right? And all this. So it's not like I'm perfect at this. But if you look at it objectively, I have used it in a big part to fix my mental health, to improve my social life, and to build a career and to build a life that is absolutely amazing, right? I mean, I get to travel the world and talk to people
Mm-hmm.
for a living.
Mm-hmm.
Wild. So so yeah, that's the social media part. I think very,
Mm-hmm.
very important.
So, one of the things that I'm also kind of picking up on is it's an old adage, if you will, but it's not necessarily what you know, it's who you know. And it sounds like you're using social media to its fullest extent there. Because, say, and I'll even use myself for example with podcasting. If I have a question about podcasting, I know where I can go. And I may not. I can even Google stuff, but at the same time, Google can sit there and lead me down some nice looking paths, and then I can hit a brick wall. But a person can always sit there and either point me in the right direction or offer me the right advice that I might need. And it sounds like you were able to utilize what's around you through social media. It, I could see people wanting to equate it to not being able to have done it without it. You know what I mean? Just for the sheer fact that it's like people argue for the convenience, but at the same time, it wasn't that convenient either. And I don't think that they understand that aspect, you know? It takes a lot of effort to do anything mental health related in the first place. And so,
Yeah, yeah. I think you want to give yourself the best chance that you possibly can with as
mhm,
many tools and as many helpful supportive things as you can, right? If that's therapy, amazing. If that's social media, amazing. If that's self-improvement, amazing. If that's somebody who's been through it, amazing. Stack them up, like give yourself the best chance that you possibly can, right?
yeah.
Feed your mind with as many of these things. That's a big part of all of this, right? Feeding your
Hmm.
brain with these positive and constructive ideas, with inspiration, with motivation, and let it come from any side, right? And
Hmm.
sometimes, like one of the first steps of switching from using, if we still use the context of social media, from switching from being a passive user towards being more of an active and intentional user
Hmm.
is start to be really intentional and curate better what you consume and what you have on the platforms, because
Hmm.
the algorithm will work with you very well if you let it, if you work with it. If you don't, if you
Hmm.
just let it give you whatever, then your brain and the algorithm will take over and will just take you all kinds of places, right, that you don't even know. But if you say, okay, I want to see things related that can help me with with my mental health, right,
Hmm.
there's buttons that you can use that are like, I'm interested in this, I'm not interested in this, right?
Hmm.
And so anything that's inspirational that you feel like is helping you feel a little bit better, click
Hmm.
I'm interested in this. If there's something that's making you feel worse, I'm not interested, right? If it's
Mhm.
just plain entertainment, not interested, right?
Mhm.
And start to curate it so that your brain is getting fed with better information,
Mhm.
um, and manage it a little bit better, and that can be a first good step of switching into more intentional use.
Yeah, for sure. And I love that mindset of using anything and everything at your disposal to get better because it's not a fair fight out there. It's not a fair fight within my own self a lot of the time. And I know that there's times whenever I'm beating myself up, I need something or someone from the outside to remind myself that, hey, you can get through this. You know, it's a little crappy right now, but you can get through it. Like, there's always something else on the other side, even though it took me years to see it sometimes. And that's the thing is that you're here to help show people the here and now and what they can do to change their mindset, to change what they're ingesting so that they can get to their best self. So, how do you see technology moving forward and all of this kind of coalescing with what you do?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of unknowns, right? A
Mm-hmm.
lot of unknowns, and I'm excited about it. I think technology will become more of humanity's best friend, and it will
Mm-hmm.
help us solve more problems. It will create a better, even a better life for us. It will make the world a better place altogether. And of course,
Mm-hmm.
there will be a lot of struggles and challenges, and there's a lot of unknowns, and there will be huge changes, right? Like people will lose jobs, for example, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's going to happen. AI will replace a lot of tasks and a lot of things, and
Mm-hmm.
humanity will be able to find its new place, right? And
Mm-hmm.
we will adapt and we will shift. That's what we do. We're really good at this as humans, right? So I see the future as a very exciting place with technology, how we have a harmonious relationship with AI and technology and humanity kind of coexisting,
Mm-hmm.
co-living and helping each other grow and expand and probably conquer the solar system and then maybe venture to other planets and things like that, like becoming a multiplanetary species.
Mm-hmm.
We will live for a very, very long time, right?
Mm-hmm.
We will live beyond probably 200 years with the use of modern
Mm-hmm.
medicine and AI and things like that. Um, and hopefully, we will be able to also solve some of the interpersonal conflicts, right? And
Mm-hmm.
help maybe have AI negotiators or like um, I don't know, counselors or something like that, with the main goal of just de-escalating conflicts and
Mm-hmm.
finding solutions. Again, lots of unknowns, have no idea, right? That's what I
Mm-hmm.
believe in. And of course, it can be kind of easy to let your mind slip into the doomerism of it, and oh, it's just gonna take over, it's gonna kill all of us, and oh my God, it's gonna be war, and because there's a lot of crap happening in the world still, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I'm very optimistic, and I always focus on the good stuff. Something that's
Yeah.
been kind of recent. I'm not sure if you've heard of Neuralink or how much you've heard of Neuralink, right? I had no idea that they already have human patients. I remember that last year
Mm-hmm.
they were like they had this monkey who was like playing video games with their mind, controlling computers. I had no idea that humans are doing that now, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I was just listening to a podcast on Joe Rogan
Uh-huh.
with the first Neuralink patient, right? And how he's like
Mm-hmm.
controlling the cursor, the computers with his
Mm-hmm.
brain only. And that's wild, right? And that's
Uh-huh.
happening. So I think that's a very exciting side and very exciting era of
Mm-hmm.
that as well. How we're really gonna become very integrated with technology completely, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it is scary, of course, but at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, I think it's very exciting. Yeah.
It is very exciting, and I think the possibilities are endless. I'm going to be frankly honest, because there's so many things that technology does for us every single day that a lot of us take for granted because we either don't know how it's made, we don't know how it works, we just know that it's there and that it works. And so we
Yeah.
go, hey, this is awesome. But whenever I was growing up, there was I don't know if it's still around because it was on the old school history channel and it was called How It's Made. And so it would go
Mm.
through all these processes and all and just show us all these super simple things that we take for granted. And I feel like technology is about to be doing that again. We're going to be looking at social media like Facebook and we're going to be like, wow, that was 20, 30 years ago, but it's like a relic. And we're actually now walking around in Facebook lobbies. Bless you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Of course. But that's going to be super cool because I think that you'll be on the forefront of helping people navigate that realm, because it's not going to be one that is just, hey guys, like, here's a Facebook virtual lobby, go meet your friends and family in VR. It's not going to be super simple like that. You're going to have all sorts of pitfalls and things to look out for. And I think that you're going to be the right person to help tell people, hey, that's probably not a good idea. If you want a good one, you should go over there, you know. But we are nearing the end of this radio episode, unfortunately. So for the people that are listening on air, is there anything that you would like to leave with them?
Yes, I like to end with no matter what you're dealing with, remember that alone you are strong, but together we're unstoppable. So reach out for help, share, connect with other people, right? Even in the context of mental health and addiction, there's many, many, many other people out there who are dealing or have dealt with the exact same things that you are dealing with. And if you connect with them and you bond over your struggles with them, it will really, really help. It really, really helps, right? So yes, alone you are strong and you can overcome so many things alone, but together, especially towards the future as well, with bigger goals, only together we're unstoppable and we can do basically anything. And yeah, humanity will thrive that way. But we have to do it together. It cannot be individual.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. Uh, and real quick, for our listeners out there, with the holiday season still around us, don't forget that if a loved one needs a certain number, the number is 988 for anyone that is in a crisis of sorts. But Ondra, it's been absolutely a pleasure with the Robo Humanist. And real quick, where can people find your social links? Where can they
Yes,
find you? All of that stuff.
amazing. So best place to find me is the easiest is just go on Instagram and search for Robo Humanist. I have a profile picture with orange background, so you will find it easily if you see orange background with this face. It's me, and yeah, if you want more information, send me a message. Even if you send me if you send me a keyword strategy, then it is like a little bit of an automated chat that will take you through if you need more help with confidence and mental health or with other aspects, and you can go through that, get some free gifts and some guides over there, and then I'll enter the chat and we can chat as well.
That's very awesome. Well, I appreciate you sharing that with everyone out there. And also, I do have to ask because not only do I ask everyone that comes on the show to come back on a second time, but I would love to have you back on because technology evolves quickly. You've done a whole lot in 24 years, and so I'd like to see what happens in a few months or so.
Yeah,
So, would you
yeah,
like to
let's
be
do
back
it.
on?
Yeah,
Sweet.
absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. Well, I appreciate that very much. And I mean, we've got a couple minutes to spare. I kind of hit that a little bit too quick on my end. So, but being where you're at the moment, where are you in the world at this
I'm in
point?
Vietnam.
Vietnam.
Yeah,
Oh
I'm in
wow.
Vietnam.
So, what is it like? Hang on, let me guess. It's at this time of recording. It is 10:03. So I'm guessing that you're 10:03 p.m. So, what is that? 20:03. Um, is that right? 20
It's
or
11,
22?
11. It's 11 a.m.
11 a.m. I was going.
on Monday. So you still have Sunday. I'm a little bit in the future.
Hmm.
I think it's Monday today, isn't it? Yeah, it's Monday.
So if you're in the future, that means that you know the lottery numbers for. Well, no, you don't. Not yet, because
I
the
mean,
lottery
yeah,
is
for
in 2 weeks.
Vietnam maybe.
But what brought you over to Vietnam of all places?
So I've been to multiple countries around Southeast Asia:
Huh.
Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, Cambodia.
Hmm.
I've also been to the US. I've been to Mexico. I've been to a bunch of places around Europe.
Huh.
Southeast Asia is a wonderful, wonderful place to live.
Hmm.
Hop around the different countries and things like
Hmm.
this. Vietnam itself is really affordable. It is absolutely amazing people, like great amenities, and the quality of life here is really high, and the
Hmm.
cost of living is really low. So it allows for investing more into the business and doing other things like that, right? And there's a great international community here. We
Hmm.
have Yesterday I was at a workshop about happiness, for example.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it's a great community here. Delicious food. Easy 3-month visa to stay here for 3 months.
Hmm.
Yeah, people are really really wonderful. The thing about Southeast Asia is before I came here,
Hmm.
I already had some like nomad friends, right? And they were all
Uh-huh.
saying like, "Oh my God, like people in Asia, they are so friendly. Like I don't know, they're so friendly." I'm like, what does that mean? Like, okay, I was living in the Netherlands at the time, and I had like a lot of
Hmm.
friends. I was talking to strangers all the time, and people seemed very friendly over there, right? Like I would just
Hmm.
walk up to people in parks and just sit down next to them and be like, "Hi guys, how's it going? Can I join you?" And people would be like, "Ah, yeah, sure. Like, what's your name?" and things like that, right? Pretty much friendly. When I got here, I was like, this is what people meant. Like, it's a whole different world. It's a whole different level of how people treat each other and how um the vibe is. Yeah, it's
Hmm.
it's wild.
And so, about how many countries over are you from your hometown?
Oh, very far. I don't know, very far, very far, on the opposite side of the world. So
Fair
because
enough.
my hometown is in Europe, I'm in Southeast Asia, so it's a different continent.
Hmm.
Many, 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 many countries, many, many miles probably, and yeah, it's very far. I think it's
Fair
like
enough.
20-hour flights. If I wanted to go, it's like 20 hours on planes, maybe
Wow.
maybe 17.
That's still a lot of travel. More than I've ever done in one day, and probably more than I'll ever do in my life. And so,
I wouldn't say that, but if
okay,
you
yeah, yeah,
if
true.
you get a chance, come at least come at least come check it out. It's really like you're gonna have a really really wonderful time. On the travel side, I think the
Hmm.
the wildest thing that I did was this year in May. I was
Hmm.
in 7 countries in 3 continents, all just in a month. All
Wow.
just in a month. I went from Mexico to the United States to Iceland to the Netherlands to the Czech Republic to Austria to China and to Thailand. So 8 countries on 3 continents, all within just a month. that was a lot of travel. I had like a couple meetups and couple conferences. I went to see my family again, and then I went back over to Asia.
How long did it take for you to get like reacquainted with jet lag and stuff like that? Was it because you were doing it so often you didn't really notice it, or did it
No,
just kind of?
I noticed it. I never really experienced it in a like heavy way,
Hmm.
but it definitely like I can feel like I'm like really drowsy and like my sleep schedule is all off, and so it takes like a week usually to adjust, week 2 weeks to fully adjust
Hmm.
it, and but like it doesn't really affect my my mental state or my work and things like that very much.
Hmm.
Of course, a little bit, but not too much. I'm used to um I'm used to like no sleep and like a bunch of sleepless nights and different schedules. I used to work at the airport before I
Hmm.
did so we had night shifts, morning shifts, afternoon shifts, changing every week or every couple of days. So like one
Hmm.
day I would start my shift at 4 a.m. and another day I would start my shift at 3 p.m. and work until midnight. And then another shift I would start at like 6 p.m. and work until 6 a.m. overnight, 12 hours. Like yeah, it was wild changes, you know. So
Yeah.
I've been used to just my schedule being all messed up.
Fair enough. Well, I gotta say, I gotta thank you for being on the show this evening, and I also gotta say thank you for doing it at such an early. Well, it's not technically that early, but early in the day for you.
Yeah, my pleasure. It was a great conversation.
I agree, and I look forward to our next conversation. We'll be able to see where you're at, what's all changed, and be able to maybe dive into how mindsets and confidence can have an effect in someone with addiction and recovery.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Well, Ondra, I appreciate you very much. You have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll speak to you later, okay?
All right. Speak again soon.
All right.
Bye.
Shalom and live stream. All right, so that was Ondra Niemczyk. So be sure to check out the full episode at retrievingsanity.com or check us out at Retrieving Sanity on Spotify and YouTube and basically anywhere else you can find a podcast. Don't forget to check out Podcasters for Prevention over at startday1.org. And I mean, just thanks again for listening to Retrieving Sanity on WDJY 99.1 FM. Be sure to check in next week whenever we speak to Jim Piconin, as he is a proponent and advocate for psilocybin and recovery. So that's a very interesting conversation. Be sure to check it out next week over here at WDJY 99.1 FM. See you next week. Schlan.